Let's get right into a cold, uncomfortable truth about human behavior. In this explainer, we're looking at the bystander effect, the psychology of collective inaction. We all like to think of ourselves as independent, rational actors who will do the right thing when it matters, but our brains are actually automatically wired to the groups around us. And sometimes that wiring has severe consequences. Think about it. If you were in danger right now, would a crowd save you? Most of us instinctively say yes. We draw a profound sense of comfort from having people around. It's this innate, deep-seated belief that safety exists in numbers. But what if that very comfort is exactly what puts you at risk? This is the normal assumption we carry around every single day. We believe that when something dangerous happens in public, more people nearby increases the chances of someone helping. It feels like basic logic. More eyes, more hands, a mathematically higher probability of rescue. But psychology has discovered something deeply uncomfortable. The reality operates in reverse. The more people present in an emergency, the less likely any one person is to act. Section 1. The catalyst for science. To understand how we discovered this anomaly, we have to look back to 1964, the murder of Kitty Genovese in New York. The crime itself shocked the public, but the real disturbance was what happened around it. Early reports claimed that numerous witnesses saw or heard the attack, yet failed to intervene or even call for help. Now, while historical reviews have debated the exact numbers since then, those initial reports forced the scientific community to investigate. By the late 1960s, psychologists John Darley and Bibb Latané began rigorous research. This brings us to the core question Darley and Latané sought to answer. Why do normal people remain passive when others are present? Notice the word normal. Psychology revealed that these bystanders were not uniquely cruel. They weren't evil or apathetic. They were completely ordinary individuals. We really need to focus on hesitation and silence here, because these bystanders were just normal people whose brains became trapped in a web of social uncertainty. Section 2. Diffusion of responsibility. This is the first of two major unconscious psychological traps that cause crowds to simply freeze in place. Diffusion of responsibility is a phenomenon where the presence of many people makes responsibility feel shared. This leads individuals to unconsciously assume someone else will act. What's absolutely crucial to understand is that this is an automatic psychological process. It is not a conscious, malicious decision to ignore someone in pain. Your brain is automatically dividing the burden of action by the number of people in the vicinity. We can actually walk through this inescapable mechanical sequence step by step. Step 1. Many people are present at the scene. Step 2. The responsibility immediately becomes psychologically shared among them. Because the burden is diluted, we reach step 3. Each person assumes someone else will act first. They figure someone else is more qualified or has already called for help. Which brings us to the inevitable step 4. Nobody moves. Section 3. Pluralistic ignorance. So diffusion of responsibility explains why we deflect action. But the second major trap explains how a crowd convinces itself that an emergency isn't even happening at all. I want to take this slowly, because once you understand this, it changes how you see crowds forever. Pluralistic ignorance is a process where people look at others to judge reality. If nobody reacts, the brain automatically assumes the situation is safe. Humans constantly observe each other. When something alarming happens, your first instinct is to scan the faces around you. But everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Because everyone is looking and nobody is acting, your brain interprets that collective lack of reaction as absolute proof that nothing is wrong, even when it clearly is. Darley and Latané anchored this theory with undeniable proof in the famous smoke-filled room experiment. A participant sits in a room filling out a questionnaire. Suddenly, smoke begins pouring into the room through a vent. When a participant was sitting alone, they almost always reacted and reported the smoke quickly. But when the participant was placed in a room with passive actors who were instructed to simply ignore the smoke, the real participant often remained seated. As the room literally filled with smoke, they ignored their own survival instincts because the group seemed calm. Take a moment. Let that sink in. Imagine yourself in that room. What could possibly compel a human being to sit quietly in a room filling with smoke? It comes down to social pressure, the profound fear of embarrassment, the fear of overreacting, or looking foolish if the situation turns out to be harmless. These bystanders are not broken, they are ordinary individuals trapped in a high-stakes guessing game, paralyzed by the social anxiety of breaking the group's behavioral consensus. Section 4. The modern bystander. Let's pivot to the modern era. Because this phenomenon didn't end with experiments in the 1960s. You see this all around you today. We see public emergencies on the subway where everyone simply watches. We see crowds holding up phones, filming a crisis instead of dropping the device to help. We see brutal online harassment routinely ignored by thousands of silent followers. We see social media reactions during crises, where pressing a button becomes a substitute for taking actual action. The screen itself has become a new modern layer of diffusion.
It is vital to realize that this behavior is not rare. It's not abnormal. It is deeply built into human social psychology. When we see thousands ignoring a plea for help online or 50 people filming an accident without intervening, we are not looking at a decay in modern morality. We are looking at the exact same automatic psychological machinery that has always governed human behavior. Inaction is the standard default of the human animal in a crowd.
Section 5. Waiting for someone else. Let's reinforce this cold reality of collective inaction that surrounds us every day. This is the heavy realization we all must carry. Most people believe they would act differently until they become part of the crowd. You, watching this explainer right now, almost certainly feel immune to this. You believe you would step forward. But the disturbing truth is that every person who sat in that smoke-filled room and every person who ever stood silently while someone suffered believed the exact same thing about themselves, right up until the exact moment they were swallowed by the crowd. And that brings us to the ultimate, chilling truth of this psychological phenomenon. The danger was never the emergency itself. The danger was everyone waiting for someone else. The smoke, the accident, the crisis, those are merely triggers. The true catastrophe is the quiet, collective decision to do nothing. Which leaves us staring at a profound vulnerability in human nature. If everyone is waiting for someone else to act, who takes the first step?